Hi folks, my name is Michael Beven. I'm the CEO of Pioneer Minerals, and today I want to run over our most recent company presentation, provide everyone with an update of the current project status, where we're at, what we've done so far, and where we're looking to go in the future. I also want to say a big thank you to all of our shareholders for your continued support. We have just recently announced we've received commitments to raise up to $1 million, which is absolutely awesome and fantastic. And it's going to go a long way into progressing our North Pine project in particular. And I think we have a really exciting time together ahead of us. So 2026 is going to be a big year, I feel. So without any further ado, I'll get into it. Pioneer Minerals company presentation released on the 14th of January, 2026. All right, so Pioneer Minerals company presentation, US critical minerals for defense and energy, January 2026. We're going to be talking about tungsten, antimony, uranium, and lithium, all critical minerals and all vital for US defense and also US energy supply as well. That's very much where Pioneer sees the future of mineral exploration, certainly for at least the next 8 years moving forward. Absolutely fantastic, supportive administration at the moment in the US, and I don't think the geopolitical winds that are blowing at the moment are going to change too quickly, regardless of which administration is in power. So if we take a look at the project location map, and what you'll find is that our flagship projects and the projects I'm going to be talking about today are located in North America. We see that this is the optimal location for mineral exploration. And also for developing untapped resources as well. So when we look at the commodities that Pioneer is focusing heavily on at the moment, and we'll talk more about our North Pine project at the moment, but we need to talk a little bit about tungsten and antimony and why these two metals are just so important. I'll start off with tungsten. Tungsten is a metal with it's the second hardest metal in the world of all the metals, and it also has the second highest melting point. You need to get close to the temperature of the surface of the sun to melt it. So just those two characteristics alone tell you a lot about why it's so important to defense. Now, it's also super critical to industrial manufacturing as well. We all know about tungsten carbide. Once you obviously combine tungsten and carbon, you end up with basically the hardest item on the earth, which is why it is absolutely critical. Now, the thing about tungsten, a lot of people just aren't aware of it. They aren't aware of how valuable it is. And they also aren't aware of how rare it is. Tungsten is truly a rare mineral. The tungsten deposits globally relative to other metals such as copper and so forth are very quite small. There are no enormous, huge, massive, Olympic dam tungsten deposits. They just don't exist. And this is one reason as well why tungsten is so rare. Now, it's critical for defense and for heavy industry, like I just mentioned, because of the properties of the metal. And the other thing to understand about tungsten is that 83% of the tungsten mining and production of tungsten is done from China, right? So China controls the supply, again, as we see with rare earths and many other commodities. But not only that, they've also banned and blocked exports of tungsten from China to Western markets, all right? That just gives you an idea of, one, the importance of the commodity and the importance to control it, but also the demand for it. If there was excess tungsten available, you wouldn't be, trying to block exports. You'd be trying to sell it as much as you can and profit off it. But China has absolutely banned exports of tungsten to the West. And the main reason for that is because China is also the largest importer of tungsten. All right, so you think about that. China controls 83% of the global tungsten production, and they're also the world's global largest importer of tungsten as well. So when it comes to critical minerals, and also, like I alluded to before, the rarity of tungsten deposits and the size of them, you'll start to understand why tungsten is absolutely one of the most critical minerals. Some people say the only truly critical mineral of the future. Now, antimony has been spoken about a lot and is on the radar for most people. The area that we are exploring in Idaho at the North Pine project, in this area, tungsten, antimony, and gold go hand to hand in these mineral systems. We are adjacent to or directly near the Perpetua Resources Stibnite Gold Project, which is a $2 billion company, and they have, the Stibnite Gold Project was once called the Yellow Pine Mine, which was in the 1950s, and historically, I believe, the US's largest producing mine of antimony and tungsten as well. So this is the area that we're in. This is the type of mineralization that we are aiming to find here. And we have got some absolutely fantastic ground. So let's just get onto it. So I've already spoken about tungsten, its properties and its uses. But what I want to take a moment to explain is the price of tungsten, so people understand how valuable it is, but also how it's traded and what the units mean as well, because it's something that people aren't that familiar with. So often with commodities, we see that commodities are traded as just a dollar value per ton. With tungsten, it's a little bit different. And what we get is we get this US dollars per MTU. So MTU stands for metric ton unit, but the easiest way to understand it is that what it means is 10 kilos of tungsten concentrate or 10 kilos of APT, right? So per 10 kilos, it is worth X amount. Now, APT is the usable product. So we would mine tungsten. We would then produce a tungsten concentrate. That is then refined into APT. And then APT is what's purchased by manufacturers to produce their products and so forth. So when we're looking at tungsten prices and value, we're looking at APT as the values that we're looking at. Now, and keep in mind that this is worth for every 10 kilos of APT, all right? So 10 kilos of tungsten contained in that APT, because APT can have different grades of tungsten. So we're looking at 10 kilos of tungsten contained within the APT. That is equal to 1 MTU. So if we look at the prices of tungsten now in January 2025, APT was at $400 per 10 kilos, which, you know, equates to $40,000 per ton. And in the last year, APT has just hit, this chart caps out at 900, but we did just hit 1,000 just a few days ago. So to put that in context, we're looking at $100,000 per ton for APT. All right, that is the value of tungsten. So if we're looking at copper, you know, if we're looking at a lot of other commodities, maybe we're looking at 10,000, maybe 15,000, maybe 20,000 a ton, people getting excited about this. You know, for tungsten, because of its rarity, you know, if we're looking at a ton of APT, a ton of tungsten in the APT, we're looking at $100,000 per ton. So the price of tungsten has absolutely flown recently. It is extremely valuable. And to give you an idea, prior to 2025, you know, the tungsten price has fluctuated anywhere between sort of high 200s to up to 400, with 400 being a good price. Now with an MTU being 1,000, the time for tungsten is now. And with everything that's happening in the future regarding manufacturing, defense spending, etc., not just in the US, but in Europe as well, tungsten is needed for all of that. So the prices of tungsten going absolutely bananas. And this is the values that you're looking at. Now, we'll talk a little bit about uranium as well. As I spoke to before, we have tungsten, antimony, that's our North Pine project, and then uranium as well. We think that uranium is critical for green energy based power line for the future. With the amount of AI data centers that are coming online and the transition to EVs as well, you take all of the petroleum off the road, that all of that energy to drive those vehicles needs to come from somewhere. Windmills and solar is just not going to do it, I'm afraid. When you look at the average amount of energy production produced by windmills and solar over a 1 year period, they produce energy for about 6 hours per day. with the change of the seasons, clouds, night, day, no wind, etc., etc. So we are 100% going to need baseline clean energy, and this is where uranium comes into it. So uranium prices, as you can see here, have been absolutely climbing for many years. They were down around about the 30, and they've been rising ever since 2022. So around about $60 per pound is where a lot of projects become viable. Now up at $82, and I expect this is going to continue to climb as well. So awesome and fantastic. Uranium obviously needed for a lot of things, but primarily for nuclear power. So let's talk about the North Pine Tungsten and Antimony project located in Idaho, USA. So if you take a look at the map on the right hand side, our tenements, our claims here are the blue areas. The whole area we refer to as North Pine, and North Pine consists of 3 different prospects. Those prospects being the Northman prospect, the Silver Cliffs prospect, and the Springfield prospect as well. On this map here, you can see how close we are to Perpetua Resources. As I said earlier, Perpetua Resources has a market cap of $2.2 billion, and their primary project is the Stibnite Gold Project, which is based off the historic Yellow Pine mine. They have 6 million ounces of gold there and a significant antimony resource as well. Quite low grade, but a very large project. And then next to them we have the Horse Heaven Antimony Project, a Resolution Minerals. You can see the proximity of our Silver Cliffs prospect to the Golden Gate targets here. Some absolutely fantastic drill intercepts recently by Resolution at those targets, and targeting a fault zone which we interpret to run down onto our ground here at Silver Cliffs as well, which is why we pegged it. Today though, we're mostly going to be focusing on Springfield prospect. This is where we have an absolutely stellar tungsten, gold, and potentially antimony project, but definitely tungsten and gold at this point, and that's going to be the main focus of this part of the presentation. So we are in an absolutely tier 1 location for ore bodies and discovery. As I said, the Yellow Pine mine was the US's largest producing antimony and tungsten mine ever. And so that's the caliber of, I guess, ore deposit that we are looking for. At the Springfield deposit itself, there is a historic mine, which was called the Springfield Mine, that historically produced in the 50s at the same time as Yellow Pine was producing. That produced 39,000 tons at 0.35 to 0.4% tungsten, and that was mined by Bradley Mining Co. So we know there is a small deposit sitting there so far. It doesn't have any JORC compliant resource or any numbers that we can talk about at the moment. The work that was done on the old historic mine was done back in the 50s, and it's very limited, which we'll go into in more detail very shortly, but it's a very exciting opportunity, and stick with me to hear more. Now, just to talk a little bit about the geology quickly and what we're looking at here, the critical to geological units that we're looking at here are the Idaho batholith, which is, you can see here is this large green unit on the map. This is the metal-rich granite, which is the source for all of the metals and the ore bodies here in the area. The other very important group here is what's called the Windermere supergroup, and these are sedimentary rocks, limestones, quartzites, things like this that were here in place when the Idaho batholith intruded. So you had these sedimentary layers in place, it was intruded by this metal-rich granite, and then the fluids from that metal-rich granite, where it's run along faults or being remobilized, comes into contact with the Windermere supergroup, and the Windermere supergroup often makes a trap, a chemical trap and physical trap for those metal-rich fluids, and that's where we find our ore deposits. So that is the critical interaction here in the area when it comes to sort of ore bodies, and we'll talk more about it as we go. Now, at the end of last year, just before the snows hit, we hit the ground at North Pine and did a pretty thorough investigation of the Springfield prospect, the historic mine there, and the surrounding area. We took, I believe it was 69 different rock chip samples from that whole area, both from around the mine, proximal to the mine, on top of the mine, downstream from the mine, adjacent to the mine, really just trying to get a good idea of is the historic reporting of the grades and the style of mineralization correct? What sort of rocks and geologies are we looking at? Is the interpretation of the system correct? Etc, etc. We really wanted to get quite a good idea of potentially what we're looking at here as far as what mineralization was at the surface. And I'm very happy to say that the results were absolutely fantastic. So we had a lot of really quite high grade tungsten samples returned. To give you an idea of what's high grade for tungsten, most tungsten deposits in the world will have a bottom cutoff for their resource at 0.1%. If the bottom cutoff for your resource is 0.3%, then it's generally going to be a higher grade style of deposit, with 0.3 being the bottom cutoff, right? So the bottom cutoff, a very rough idea of what could potentially be economic when we're talking about calculating resources and so forth. So if we go through our results and what we found, 0.64% tungsten, 2.98% tungsten, 0.66% tungsten, 0.4% tungsten, 0.93% tungsten, 0.83% tungsten, 0.96% tungsten, 0.5, 0.51, 0.62, 0.51, 0.48, 1%, and 0.66. Now, very good grades of tungsten in the form of scheelite. Scheelite is the primary tungsten mineral that we have. And we know that because if you look at the picture here on the screen, which shows the glowy bits of the rocks, well, the glowy bits of the rocks are the scheelite. So when you put a shortwave UV light onto rocks and scheelite, it will glow like it glows in these images. So very quick way of identifying if you have scheelite present or not. And the picture next to it gives you an idea of the type of mineralization and where that scheelite is hosted. And what you can see here is you can see this massive sort of golden, shiny, yellow material here in this rock. And also, the sort of reds brown, this is a lot of iron. But this material here, this is pyrrhotite, which is iron sulfur sulfide. And we very much find the scheelite associated with this style of massive pyrrhotite. So we have massive sulfides here and scheelite present as well. It's a very exciting type of mineralization because it responds really quite well to geophysics, and it's quite easy to understand as well. So really quite exceptional results. Probably the most surprising thing that came out of the program, however, is that we really did have quite significant gold here as well. Now, gold has never been really mentioned or followed up or explored for at Springfield or as a part of the tungsten system at all. And so to get the gold results come back that we had, they were just really quite excellent. And it really opens up what we can potentially be looking at here at Springfield, because in my mind at the moment, we're definitely looking at a tungsten and gold project. So just a few of the samples came back really quite exceptional. So for example, sample 48 came back at 7.75 grams per ton gold. Absolutely fantastic. Another one at 1.5% here. We do have this one at 4.47. That was a pan sample that was taken out of one of the nearby creeks. So that's natural that that's going to be a bit higher. But what is probably important is that there were quite a few samples as well, that came back at 0.2, 0.3 grams per ton. And there's a different geochemical association between the tungsten and the gold, right? So what we're looking at here is we're looking at potentially either one system with that's been overprinted by a secondary system, or perhaps the Springfield tungsten deposit is a part of a much larger system overall. First time anyone's explored here for gold, and we've got really strong gold here so far, and so I'm quite excited to see what's going to come next as well. Little credits of copper as well. That copper is really just associated with chalcopyrite, which is found within the pyrrhotite mix. So that's sort of the style of mineralization that we're looking at so far. very happy with the grades that have come back because they align with the historic reporting. They sort of align with what's generally thought to be, economic grades of tungsten. And it's given us a much better understanding of the style of mineralization, but also really given us a big clue and got us quite excited about the potential for some significant gold here associated with the tungsten as well, which is great. So you can see once again on this slide, we've got sample 28, just shows that massive pyrrhotite and a high grade tungsten in that sample. To give you an idea, sample 28, 0.96% tungsten associated with, you can see where we took the sample from here, from that massive sulfide. And then below we can see sample 48, which returns 7.75 grams per ton. This is a quartz vein within a granitic rock, which has got mass sulfides in it, sitting on top of the actual the deposit itself in the south here. You can see where it is. So really high grade gold within a quartz vein, away from where anything was mined in the past. Really quite good. You can see the distribution here of the rock chip samples and where the grades came from. And the good thing here is that what you can see is that we don't just have one central cluster of sort of high grade tungsten or anything like that. The high grade tungsten is really quite widely distributed across the general area as well. So that's really quite exciting. We do find a bit of a relationship where the gold at the moment seems to be sitting on the edges of where we find the high grade tungsten, which is again just another indication that there's a broader gold system here. And then sitting within that is the tungsten. So we've just completed the magnetic survey. That data is currently being processed and in our hands very shortly after geophysical interpretation by our geophysicists. That's really going to help us define drill targets for where we need to go here. We are confident about the grades and the style of the mineralization already. We just need to refine our targets so we know where to hit and to deliver the absolute best results. Now, the good thing about the pyrrhotite, this sulfide that you can see here on the left, is that it's magnetic as well. All right, so we have a strongly magnetic abundance of sulfide here in the area associated with the scheelite mineralization, and then we have quite good grades of tungsten found within the rock chips as well. So quite an exciting time as well. And this gold project, this gold side of the story, you just never know where that's going to end up. It's really quite exciting. So that's where Springfield is at the moment. That's really going to be our main focus at the moment. I think we have some absolutely fantastic targets which should be coming up in the next few weeks that we want to pursue and drill. And I think it's going to be an exciting time, 2026. At North Pine. Moving on to Skull Creek uranium project, so located in Colorado. We've got a 17-kilometer strike here of outcropping sandstones. You can see in a picture down the bottom right-hand side, some of the field geologists out there taking rock chip samples and using the spectrometer to get counts per second rate, measure how radioactive the sandstones are. And from the exploration that we've done so far, we found that the grades of uranium mineralization, which is sticking out of the ground along the 17-kilometer strike, ranges from 50, 60 ppm, with highlights being up to 1,000 and 240 ppm U308. So we know that in the rocks that are sticking out the ground, we found instances where we have certainly economic grades of uranium. But what we are most interested in is what's at depth. We're looking at a roll front style of uranium mineralization here hosted in the sandstones, and those roll fronts are normally going to be down dip of the surface and of the sandstone layers, and that's what we need to drill and intercept. So we've done detailed geological mapping here to understand the dip direction of the sandstone beds. We've confirmed at surface that we have uranium at the surface and uranium in the sandstones across the strike of varying different grades. So we know that the sandstone is mineralized. And we've also gone through and done a widespread soil sampling program. Some of the areas are covered in a thin layer of soil, which masks that radiometric response. So we've taken samples of all of those. So we've dug beneath the soil and taken a sample of the weathered bedrock below that soil and taken a radiometric reading of that as well. So what that does is, we're not expecting to find a uranium deposit sitting under 30 centimeters of soil. That's not generally how it works. But within the broader 17-kilometer strike, those areas of that sandstone where the background level of uranium is significantly higher than others is likely where we're going to have these tabular bodies, or we're going to find those roll fronts at depth, because it's indicating that, uranium bearing fluids have moved through there, and some have been able to precipitate out. So really quite a great project, and we're very, very close to having a drill-ready uranium target here as well. We should have the results for all of this test work done very shortly, and we'll be able to submit our notice of intent to drill this project when the time is right. But really quite an exciting uranium project. You can see here on this slide that these are really quite, the red is where the basement beneath the soil is radiometrically anomalous. And we've got really quite broad zones. Like I said before, the whole area we're talking about is 17 kilometer strike. And if you look at some of these anomalies, so this anomaly here near county line, this is an area approximately 1 kilometer long by 240 meters wide of radiometrically anomalous basement, right? So this is a really good, strong indication that beneath this is where we're most likely to be able to find that economic uranium that we're chasing. And we see these repeating bullseye targets across the strike as well. So really quite exciting, multiple different targets here to follow up. And we'll talk more about Colorado as we progress, but we'll be positioned very well to capitalize on uranium as the price continues to improve with the Colorado Skull Creek project. Just a cross section to show you what we've mapped and what we can see is going on here. And I guess the importance of this as well. Here we're looking at a cross section, so we're looking as if we're looking into the ground. These pinky layers, these are the actual sandstone, the Sego sandstone we call it, which are dipping into the ground. We know their sort of dip and their dip direction as well. And what we see is that it's not the entire sandstone layer which is radiometrically anomalous. It's only a portion of it, which is good, right? And normal, because what it means is that, this layer has been deposited at different times. Different time we've had different fluids come through, and there's something different about this sandstone on the top of the layer, which is able to hold the uranium versus the bottom, which isn't, all right? And that's normally to do with the iron content. That's the main sort of thing that will control the precipitation of uranium or not. But what we see is we've got these large sandstone dipping beds, and we can see that we've got 10 up to 50 meters wide of radiometrically anomalous sandstone here. So down depth, the uranium generally precipitates out, down dip and down and at depth. That's where our targets are going to be. Touching base on Central Buttes. Central Buttes, located in Wyoming, #1 uranium province in all of America, without a doubt, is a very recent project for us. We pegged it at the same time as North Pine, and it's located just 5 kilometers away from the North Butte, which is where Cameco has an operating in-situ recovery series of wells, right? Which combined is their Highland Smith Highland ISR project. So to give you a little bit of an idea about this area, the Buttes is, there's North Butte, there's the Central Butte, and then there's the Southern Butte. This is sort of geographically speaking, the buttes being hills, prominent areas that are sticking out of the ground. The area total is referred to as the Pumpkin Buttes, and the term roll front uranium was actually coined by uranium that's found here at the Pumpkin Buttes, up at the North Butte in particular. But we know there are red beds, giant red beds, which are iron-rich beds of sandstone that run beneath these. Has a very rich history of mining, of uranium discovery and uranium mining. There are some radiometrically anomalous occurrences and some indications of past exploration, mostly past, I should say, old-timer mining of uranium occurrences on the ground here. And we're planning on getting out and aggressively following these up. It's an absolute tier 1 jurisdiction when it comes to uranium mineralization. And like I said, this area and this zone, just 5 kilometers away from where Cameco is operating as well, is the region where the term roll front uranium was coined. So really quite excited about what we're going to find here at Central Buttes in Wyoming. And lastly, but certainly not least, we'll just talk about the Root Lake and Benham project. Now, many of you may know that we were Pioneer Lithium previously. The company floated as a lithium company, and these projects were our flagship projects. Now, absolutely awesome and fantastic lithium projects, but the lithium price has been very, very low for some time. And fortunately, we're just seeing it start to ramp up significantly with spodumene prices finally going above $2,000 per ton. So what are we looking at here? Root Lake, our Root Lake project located in Ontario, Canada. Now, this is our parcel of land here, and we're located right in between GT1's 2 lithium resources that they have here. So 4.5 million tons. The Macomb resource at 1.01% lithium, and then their Root Bay deposit, 15.6 million tons at 1.24% lithium. The pegmatite field, which the lithium is in the pegmatites, runs east-west through here. You can see sort of the line that runs straight through our ground. Really excellent. So, and we have done work to confirm the pegmatites do continue through our ground as well. In fact, at the red Squirrel prospect, a grab sample there returned 2.95% lithium, which is great. We did a channel sample there, and it came back at 3,503 lithium, which is a little bit low. But the important thing is that spodumene and lithium occurs within pegmatite swarms in zones. The thing is that you either have a lithium or you don't. Right? You can have pegmatites with fantastic potassium rubidium ratios, but it doesn't mean anything unless there's actual spodumene there. And normally what you'll find is that the spodumene bearing pegmatites zoned proximal to the actual granite intrusion which spawned those pegmatites, right? So the fact that we've been able to determine the pegmatite field that these 2 resources are associated with continues through our ground, and that we have confirmed the presence of spodumene in the pegmatites as well, is 70% of the battle. So the project is in good standing at the moment. We know that there is lithium in the pegmatites there. It's been on care and maintenance while the lithium price has been suppressed, but it's an excellent project with real opportunity. And as soon as the lithium price and our shareholders say, let's go, boys, let's get some lithium, let's fire it back up, we are in a strong position to be able to capitalize on that. So Root Lake, absolutely fantastic lithium project. But perhaps even better than Root Lake, we have the Benham lithium project. So here we have found we've got approximately a 40-meter pegmatite outcropping. Minimal work done here so far. And because the work was just underway when the lithium price absolutely crashed. But what we've got here, we found a spodumene bearing lithium pegmatite. We've done channel sampling here as well. I'll just read out some of the grades because they're really quite good. So channel sampling results, 1 meter at 4.61% lithium, or 2.1 meters at 2.3% lithium, and 2.1 meters at 1.29% lithium. So really quite high grades here across this 4-meter channel sample. And there's been no testing of this at depth or length. There's been no trenching, hasn't been done yet. So this project, Benham, we have an outcropping lithium pegmatite with fantastic grade, just ready to be absolutely followed up as well. So as soon as the time is right and the moment is upon us, we will be certainly advancing this project very, very quickly. So coming up in the near future, we've got tailings that we took, samples of the tailings that we took from Springfield, from the historic mining, and we've sent that off for recovery test work. Back in the 50s, they did a very simple processing on site, produced a really quite a coarse tailings as well. Historic reports put those tailings at about 0.1%, and we're just going through the recovery test work with Mineral Technologies at the moment to see what is the grade of them, what's the grade by the size categorization of the tailings, what is the grade once we crush it, what's our recoveries like, can we beneficiate this tailings into a higher grade product, and also is there any gold in the tailings, right? Very, very important. So all of that work is underway at the moment. That's going to give us a very good understanding of the very basic physical properties of the mineralization, the tungsten mineralization at Springfield. So having that information in hand is going to be enable us to really advance the project quite quickly. Normally, a company would have to do, rounds and rounds, so much drilling and so much exploration before you're going to get to your initial sort of metallurgical recovery. Luckily, because we have all of this simply processed material with grade on it sitting on site, we can advance that really quite quickly. So as I said, the aeromagnetic survey has been complete. We're just waiting for the interpreted data and the interpretation of that and the definition of drill targets based off that. That's what we're working on at the moment, and that should be, you can expect that in the very near future. And then as well, the VTEM, flying a VTEM survey is what we might do. So EM is a technique which is really good at identifying massive sulfides in the ground. And as I alluded to when I was talking about Springfield, we have massive sulfides associated with the scheelite mineralization. So we may just want to do the VTEM, which is a helicopter-based survey, to really refine down our potential drill targets and de-risk any potential drilling that may be coming up. But once we've done that, we will be ready to drill once we have our government approvals, contractors in place, and so forth. And definitely drilling at Springfield, I think it's going to be really quite exciting. The geochem results for Skull Creek have been a long time coming, but they should be here very, very shortly. We'll be receiving them soon. And that information, we'll be releasing that as well. And then Skull Creek will be in a position when we're ready to pull the trigger and drill that as well. So really quite exciting to have that uranium ready drill target going. And then at Central Buttes in Wyoming, we're just going to commence the very first phases of exploration. So most of the focus is at North Pine with the tungsten, the gold, and the antimony. We're going to get Skull Creek and Central Buttes into that position where they're drill ready, and we can pull the trigger when we need to capitalize on the ever increasing uranium price. And that's what you can expect in the very near future from us. So corporate information, we currently shares on issue 64.4 mil. Share price as of the 14th was 20 cents a share, 12.7 mil market cap, 26 million options outstanding. Most of those are at 20 cents or 25 cents, which is excellent. And then the most important thing about Pioneer, and one of the greatest things about Pioneer, is that we are a very, very tightly held company. We have a fantastic base of supportive shareholders that have been with us the entire time. And if you so not many sellers, if you take a look at this, top 20 shareholders, 77% of the company, and most of those have been with us since the start. So excellent company structure, and really positioned well, given our strong commodity basis, to really have a big 2026. So that's it, folks. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've had some value out of this presentation. If you have any questions, my details are on the screen right now. Please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.